Subscribe now because stories like this aren't made to be forgotten. They stay with us long after the video ends. There's a photograph Rachel keeps in a drawer she rarely opens. In it, Ethan is 3 hours old. His body is folded in half. His knees touch his chest. His feet rest against his own face. His arms are locked at angles that seem to defy anatomy itself. The hospital blanket draped over him looks like it's covering something that shouldn't exist. Something the world wasn't ready to see. She doesn't look at that photo often. Not because she's ashamed, but because every time she does, she remembers the silence in the delivery room. It was May 2012. Rachel was 28 years old. She'd had a normal pregnancy, no red flags, no warnings. The ultrasound showed a baby, a boy. Healthy, they said. Everything's fine, they said. But when Ethan came out, the room went quiet. Not the good kind of quiet. The kind that makes your skin cold. The doctor didn't hand him to her right away. The nurses moved fast, but their faces were careful. Too careful. Rachel heard whispers. She heard the word call and specialist and prepare her. Her husband, David, stood frozen by the window. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stared. And then they brought Ethan to her. She'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. The warmth of his skin, the smell of his hair, the way his little fingers would curl around hers. But when she saw him, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked. His body was bent in ways a body shouldn't bend. His legs were drawn up so tightly against his torso that his knees pressed into his ribcage. His arms were rigid, locked at sharp angles, wrists turned inward. His spine curved unnaturally. Even his neck seemed stiff, his head tilted at an uncomfortable slant. He wasn't crying. His eyes were open, dark, wide, and searching. Rachel reached out. Her fingers touched his cheek. It was warm, soft, real. What's wrong with him? David's voice came from across the room, flat, distant. The doctor cleared her throat. It's called arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, severe form. It means his joints didn't develop properly in the womb. His muscles are weak, his tendons are too short, and his bones. They've grown in fixed positions. Rachel didn't understand half the words. She just kept looking at Ethan. Can you fix it? David asked. The doctor hesitated. We can try, surgeries, physical therapy. But I need you to understand, this is permanent. He will never have a typical body. He may never walk. He may never sit up on his own. And he will be in pain. Likely. For most of his life. David turned away. He walked out of the room without saying another word. Rachel stayed. She held Ethan's tiny, twisted hand. And she whispered, I'm here. The first 3 months were a blur of hospital visits, specialist consultations, and sleepless nights. Ethan couldn't breastfeed. His jaw didn't open wide enough. He couldn't sleep on his back without screaming. His body didn't fit into normal baby carriers. Normal clothes, normal anything. Rachel learned to hold him in ways that didn't hurt him. She learned to change his diaper around legs that wouldn't straighten. She learned to read his cries. There was the hunger cry, the pain cry, the exhaustion cry, and the one that meant something inside him was breaking. David barely looked at him. At first, Rachel told herself he was processing, grieving, adjusting. But grief doesn't look like disgust. One night, when Ethan was 8 weeks old, Rachel found David standing over the crib, just staring. His face was hard, empty. What are you thinking? She asked softly. He didn't turn around. I'm thinking this isn't what I signed up for. Rachel's chest tightened. He's your son. Is he? David's voice was cold. Because when I look at him, I don't see a son, I see a mistake. Rachel felt something crack inside her. Get out. What? Get out of this room, now. David left, and 3 weeks later he left for good. No fight, no explanation, just a text message. I can't do this. I'm sorry. He wasn't sorry. He was gone. Rachel's mother came to visit when Ethan was 3 months old. She walked in. looked at the baby in Rachel's arms and said, "You know there are places for children like him?" Rachel stared at her. "What?" "Facilities, homes, places with trained staff, people who know how to handle this." "Handle him?" Her mother sighed. "Rachel, be realistic. You're alone. You have no income. You can't work with a baby who needs round-the-clock care, and he's only going to get harder to manage as he grows." Rachel's voice was quiet, steady. "Get out. Rachel, get out." Her mother left. They didn't speak for 2 years after that. Rachel learned quickly that the world wasn't built for Ethan. Doorways were too narrow for the specialized stroller. Changing tables didn't accommodate his body. People stared. Always. Everywhere. At the grocery store, a woman stopped her. "What's wrong with him?" Rachel didn't answer. "Is it contagious?" Rachel pushed the cart past her without a word. At the pediatrician's office, a nurse asked if she'd considered comfort care only. Rachel asked what that meant. The nurse said, "No aggressive intervention, just keeping him comfortable until..." Rachel switched pediatricians. Ethan's first surgery was at 6 months old. They tried to release the tendons in his knees to give his legs a little more mobility. It didn't work. His body rejected the change. The joints locked up again within weeks. The surgeon said, "We can try again. But I want you to understand this is going to be a lifetime of surgeries, and most of them won't give you the results you're hoping for." Rachel asked, "Will they help him?" "Maybe. Marginally." "Then we do them." By the time Ethan was 2, he'd had 9 surgeries. By the time he was 5, 23. Rachel kept a notebook with every procedure, every medication, every physical therapy session. She became an expert in his condition. She knew more than some of the doctors. But she couldn't fix him, and that was the truth she carried every single day. Ethan started to understand he was different around age 4. He'd watch other kids at the park, running, climbing, laughing. He'd look down at his own body, twisted and small, and his face would fall. One day he asked, "Why don't my legs work like theirs?" Rachel knelt beside him. "Because your body is built differently, but that doesn't mean it's broken." He looked at her with those wide, dark eyes. "It feels broken." She didn't know what to say, so she just held him. Kindergarten was a nightmare. The school wasn't equipped. The teachers didn't know how to help him. The other kids asked questions, some curious, some cruel. One boy asked, "Why are you bent?" Ethan didn't answer. Another kid said, "You look like a pretzel." Ethan came home and cried in Rachel's lap for an hour. She called the school. They said they'd address it. They didn't. By 1st grade, Rachel homeschooled him. It was easier, safer, lonelier. Ethan was smart, wickedly smart. He taught himself to read by age 5. He loved drawing even though his hands didn't work the way he wanted them to. He'd spend hours sketching animals, buildings, faces, his lines shaky but determined. Rachel would sit beside him and watch. And sometimes, just for a moment, she'd forget about the pain, the surgeries, the stares. She'd just see her son, creating something beautiful. But those moments were rare. Most days were hard, exhausting, soul-crushing. There were nights Rachel sat on the bathroom floor and sobbed. Nights she wondered if her mother had been right. Nights she thought, "I can't do this anymore." But every morning, Ethan would wake up. He'd look at her with those eyes, and he'd smile, and she'd get up, and she'd keep going. When Ethan was 7, a social worker came to the house. Someone had reported Rachel, anonymously. The report claimed she was struggling to provide adequate care. The social worker walked through the house. She asked questions. She took notes. At the end, she said, "I don't see any signs of neglect, but I do see a mother who's exhausted. Have you considered respite care?" Rachel said, "No. It might help. Just a weekend. Give you a break." Rachel's voice was firm. "I don't need a break from my son." The social worker didn't come back, but the damage was done. Rachel felt watched, judged, suspected. She stopped answering the phone. She stopped going to support groups. She and Ethan became a world of two, and in that world, Rachel made a promise. She would never give up on him. Never. No matter how hard it got, no matter what anyone said. But she didn't know yet that the hardest part wasn't the surgeries or the stairs. It was the moment Ethan would look at her and ask, "Do you ever wish I was never born?" And she wouldn't have an answer. Ethan turned 8 on a Tuesday in May. Rachel baked a small chocolate cake, his favorite. She put 8 candles on it, lit them, and sang happy birthday alone in their tiny kitchen, while Ethan sat in his adaptive chair, watching her with a look she couldn't quite read. He didn't smile. He didn't blow out the candles right away. He just stared at the flames and said, "Do other kids have birthdays like this?" Rachel's voice caught. "What do you mean?" "Alone. Just them and their mom. No friends, no party." She sat down across from him. "You want a party?" He shook his head. "No, I don't know what I want." He blew out the candles. Rachel cut the cake. They ate in silence. That was the year things started to shift. Not physically. Ethan's body was still locked in that same painful configuration. But emotionally, something was changing. He was becoming aware, not just of his difference, but of what it meant, what it cost him, what it cost her. He started asking questions she didn't know how to answer. Why did Dad leave? Do you ever get tired of taking care of me? If I wasn't like this, would your life be better? Rachel would try to reassure him. She'd say all the right things. I love you exactly as you are. You're not a burden. You're my son, and that's all that matters. But Ethan was smart. Too smart. He could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her hand shook when she lifted him, the way she'd sit at the kitchen table late at night with bills spread out in front of her head in her hands. He knew. And knowing made it worse. By the time Ethan was 9, they'd moved 3 times, each apartment smaller than the last. Rachel worked from home doing medical transcription, night shifts mostly after Ethan was asleep. She made just enough to cover rent, food, and the medical bills that insurance didn't touch. There was no money for extras, no vacations, no new clothes, no birthday parties. But there was always money for Ethan's care. Always. Rachel had learned to fight for him. She fought insurance companies who denied coverage. She fought doctors who suggested palliative approaches. She fought school districts who said they couldn't accommodate him. She became the kind of mother people whispered about. The difficult one. The one who wouldn't take no for an answer. She didn't care. Let them whisper. But the fighting took a toll. She was 37 years old and looked 50. Her hair had started to gray. Her back ached from years of lifting Ethan. She had stress fractures in her wrists. She didn't sleep more than 4 hours a night, and she was alone. Completely alone. Her mother had reached out once 2 years after their falling out. She'd sent a card. It said, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. Call me." Rachel threw it away. She didn't need apologies. She needed help. And no one had offered that when it mattered. Ethan's 29th surgery happened when he was 9.5. This time they were trying to straighten his spine, just a little, just enough to reduce the pressure on his lungs and heart. The surgery took 11 hours. Rachel sat in the waiting room the entire time. She didn't eat, didn't move, just sat there staring at the wall, waiting. When the surgeon finally came out, his face was tired. The surgery went as well as we could hope. But Rachel, I need to be honest with you. We're reaching the limits of what we can do. His body is fighting every correction, and each surgery puts more strain on his system. Rachel's voice was hoarse. So what are you saying? I'm saying at some point we have to weigh the benefits against the risks. He's been under anesthesia nearly 50 times in his life. His heart is strong now, but it won't stay that way forever if we keep doing this. Rachel felt something cold settle in her chest. Are you telling me to stop? The surgeon hesitated. I'm telling you to think about quality of life, not just length. Rachel stood up. Her legs were shaking. His quality of life is having a mother who doesn't give up on him. She walked away before the surgeon could respond. Ethan woke up from surgery disoriented and in pain. The first thing he said was, "Mom?" Rachel took his hand. "I'm here." He squeezed her fingers, weak but there. Did it work? She didn't know yet. We'll find out. It didn't work, not the way they'd hoped. His spine straightened a little, maybe 2 degrees, barely noticeable. But the recovery was brutal. Ethan couldn't move for weeks. He developed an infection. His fever spiked to 104. Rachel slept on a cot next to his hospital bed for 17 days. When they finally went home, Ethan was different. Quieter, more withdrawn. He stopped drawing. Rachel tried to encourage him. She'd bring him pencils, paper, his favorite animal books. But he'd just stare at them and shake his head. One day she asked, "Why won't you draw anymore?" He didn't look at her. "What's the point?" "The point is you love it." "I used to love it." His voice was flat, empty. "Now it just reminds me my hands don't work right." Rachel felt something break inside her, but she didn't let it show. She just nodded. "Okay. You don't have to draw if you don't want to." But she missed it. She missed seeing him create. She missed the light in his eyes when he finished a picture he was proud of. She missed the version of Ethan who still believed in something. When Ethan turned 10, a journalist reached out to Rachel. She'd heard about Ethan through a local disability advocacy group and wanted to do a story. Rachel said no. The journalist persisted. It could help other families, show them they're not alone. Rachel didn't care about other families. She cared about protecting Ethan. But Ethan overheard the conversation and he said, "I want to do it." Rachel looked at him surprised. "Why?" He shrugged, or tried to. His shoulders barely moved. "Maybe it'll help someone." So Rachel agreed. The journalist came to their apartment. She was kind, gentle. She asked questions carefully. She didn't push. But when the article came out 3 weeks later, Rachel wished she'd said no. The headline read, "The boy whose body bent and the mother who wouldn't let go." It wasn't cruel. It wasn't sensationalized, but it was public, and public meant exposed. Within days, the story was shared thousands of times. People commented. Some were supportive, some were curious, some were cruel. One comment said, "Why would she put him through all this? Let him go." Another, "This is what happens when parents can't accept reality." Another, "Poor kid. He didn't ask to be born like that." Rachel didn't read the comments, but Ethan did. She didn't know until weeks later when she found him sitting on the floor of his room, her phone in his lap, tears streaming down his face. "Ethan." He looked up at her. His face was wrecked. "They think you should have let me die." Rachel's heart stopped. "What?" "The people, in the comments. They think I'm suffering too much, that it's not fair to keep me alive." Rachel dropped to her knees. She reached for him, but he pulled back. "Is that true?" His voice cracked. "Do you think that?" "No." Her voice was fierce. "No, Ethan, never." "Then why do they say it?" Rachel didn't have an answer. Because the truth was complicated. The truth was that people were cruel when they didn't understand. The truth was that the world didn't know what to do with pain it couldn't fix. But she couldn't say that to him. So she just said, "Because they don't know you." Ethan wiped his face with the back of his hand. "Do you ever wish I wasn't born?" There it was. The question she'd been dreading for years. Rachel looked at her son, his body twisted and small, his face wet with tears, his eyes searching hers for something she didn't know if she could give, and she told the truth. "I've wished a lot of things, Ethan. I've wished you didn't have to be in pain. I've wished the world was kinder. I've wished I was stronger, smarter, richer, anything that could make this easier for you." Her voice broke. "But I have never, not once, wished you didn't exist." Ethan stared at her, and then quietly he said, "I have." Rachel felt the air leave her lungs. "I wish I wasn't born like this." His voice was so small. "I wish I was normal. I wish I didn't make everything so hard for you." Rachel pulled him into her arms. He didn't resist this time. He just collapsed against her, sobbing. And Rachel held him. She held him the way she'd held him the day he was born, the way she'd held him through every surgery, every sleepless night, every moment of pain. She held him, and she didn't let go. But later that night, after Ethan was asleep, Rachel sat on the bathroom floor and cried harder than she ever had, because for the first time she realized something she'd been avoiding for years. She couldn't fix this. She couldn't make it better. She couldn't love him enough to erase his pain. All she could do was stay. And some days, that didn't feel like enough. The next morning, Rachel made a decision. She deleted all her social media. She stopped reading articles about Ethan. She stopped engaging with the world outside their small apartment. If the world wanted to judge them, let it. She didn't have the energy to care anymore, but the damage was done. Ethan had read those comments, and something in him had shifted. He stopped asking questions. He stopped talking about the future. He just existed, and Rachel didn't know how to bring him back. When Ethan turned 11, his orthopedic surgeon suggested one more surgery, a big one. They'd try to release multiple joints at once, hips, knees, elbows. It was risky. The recovery would be long. There were no guarantees. But there was a chance, a small one, that Ethan might be able to sit up on his own, maybe even bear weight on his legs. Rachel asked Ethan what he wanted. He didn't answer right away. He just looked at her. And then he said, "Will it hurt?" "Yes." "Will it work?" "I don't know." He was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "Okay, let's try." The surgery was scheduled for December, 3 weeks before Christmas. Rachel held Ethan's hand as they wheeled him into the operating room. He looked so small on that gurney, so fragile. He looked up at her. "Mom?" "Yeah?" "If I don't wake up, stop. Mom, listen, if I don't wake up, no, it's okay, I'm tired." Rachel's throat closed. She couldn't speak. She just squeezed his hand. And then they took him away. The surgery lasted 14 hours. Rachel didn't move from the waiting room. She didn't eat, didn't sleep. She just sat there praying to a God she wasn't sure she believed in anymore. Please let him wake up. When the surgeon finally emerged, his scrubs were soaked with sweat. His face was unreadable. Rachel stood. "Is he?" "He's alive. The surgery went better than expected. But Rachel..." He paused. "It's going to be a long road?" Rachel nodded. "I know." She'd been on that road for 11 years. What was a little further? Ethan woke up screaming. Not crying. Screaming. The kind of sound that doesn't come from a throat. It comes from somewhere deeper. Somewhere that holds every surgery, every needle, every moment of pain compressed into one unbearable note. Rachel was at his side instantly. I'm here, baby." But he couldn't hear her. His eyes were open, but he wasn't seeing. He was somewhere else, somewhere dark. The nurses rushed in. They adjusted his medication. They spoke in low, urgent voices. It took 20 minutes for the screaming to stop. When it finally did, Ethan's eyes focused on Rachel's face. His voice came out broken. "Make it stop. I know it hurts. I know. No." He was sobbing now. "Make it stop. All of it. I can't do this anymore." Rachel felt her heart crack open. "Ethan, I want to stop, Mom. Please, no more surgeries, no more therapy, no more trying. I just want it to stop." Rachel didn't know what to say, because part of her understood. Part of her wanted it to stop too. But she couldn't say that, so she just held his hand and stayed quiet. The recovery was hell. Ethan couldn't move without pain. Every breath hurt. Every shift in position was agony. The physical therapist came daily and Ethan would cry before they even touched him. Rachel watched her son suffer, and she felt herself breaking in ways she didn't know were possible. One night, 3 weeks post-op, a nurse found Rachel in the hallway outside Ethan's room. She was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest, rocking back and forth. The nurse knelt beside her. "Rachel, when's the last time you ate?" Rachel didn't answer. When's the last time you left this hospital? Still nothing. The nurse put a hand on her shoulder. You can't do this to yourself, you're going to collapse. Rachel looked up. Her eyes were hollow. If I collapse, who takes care of him? The nurse didn't have an answer. But slowly, gradually, Ethan started to heal. Not fully, not even close. But enough. 6 weeks after surgery, the physical therapist had Ethan sit up in bed. Really sit up. Not propped by pillows. His back was straighter. His legs, though still bent, were looser. He sat there for 30 seconds before his muscles gave out. But it was 30 seconds. Rachel cried. Ethan didn't. He just stared at his hands and said, "That's it? That's what we did all this for?" The therapist tried to encourage him. "Ethan, that's huge progress. It's 30 seconds. It's 30 seconds you couldn't do before." Ethan looked at Rachel. Was it worth it? She didn't know how to answer that. They went home in February. The apartment felt smaller than ever. Colder, darker. Ethan barely spoke. He went through the motions, therapy, exercises, meals, but he was somewhere else. Unreachable. Rachel tried everything. She played music he used to love. She read to him. She asked if he wanted to try drawing again. Nothing worked. One afternoon in March, Rachel was helping Ethan with his exercises when he suddenly said, "Why didn't you listen to them?" Listen to who? Everyone. The doctors, Grandma, Dad, everyone who said you shouldn't keep trying. Rachel's hands stilled. Because they were wrong. Were they? Ethan's voice was quiet, defeated. "Look at me, Mom. I'm 11 years old and I can barely sit up. I'll never run, never play sports, never do anything normal kids do. And you've spent your whole life trying to fix something that can't be fixed. You're not something to be fixed." "Yes, I am." His voice broke. "That's all I've ever been. A problem, a project. Something broken that you keep trying to put back together." Rachel felt tears burn her eyes. "That's not true." "Then what am I?" She looked at her son, his body still twisted, his face exhausted, his eyes empty. And she realized she didn't have the answer he needed. That night, Rachel sat at the kitchen table with a bottle of wine she'd bought 2 years ago and never opened. She poured a glass, drank it, poured another. She thought about David. About how he'd walked away without looking back. About how easy it had been for him. She thought about her mother. About the word institutionalization. About how many times she'd wondered if maybe, just maybe, her mother had been right. She thought about the comments online. "Let him go. This is cruelty." She thought about Ethan's question. Was it worth it? And she didn't know. She didn't know anymore. Rachel drank until the bottle was empty, and then she put her head down on the table and sobbed. When she woke up the next morning, Ethan was sitting in his wheelchair in the doorway, watching her. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Rachel lifted her head. Her face was swollen, her throat raw. "No," she said, "I'm not." Ethan nodded, like he understood, like he'd always understood. "Me neither," he said. They sat there in silence. Two people drowning in the same ocean, unable to save each other. And for the first time, Rachel wondered if love was enough. In April, something shifted. Ethan's physical therapist suggested trying a new standing frame, one designed for kids with severe joint contractures. It would allow Ethan to bear weight on his legs, even if just for a few minutes at a time. Rachel was skeptical. They'd tried standing frames before. They never worked. But the therapist insisted, "This one's different. It's custom fit. And Ethan's stronger now after the surgery. Let's just try." Ethan didn't want to. "What's the point?" "The point," the therapist said gently, "is that your bones need weight bearing to stay healthy, and your muscles need to remember what it feels like to hold you up." Ethan looked at Rachel. "Do I have to?" She wanted to say no. She wanted to protect him from one more disappointment. But she said, "Let's try." They fitted him into the frame. It took 20 minutes to position his legs, strap his torso, adjust the supports, and then, slowly, they tilted the frame upright. Ethan's feet touched the ground. His legs trembled. His face twisted in pain. But he was standing. The therapist smiled. "How does it feel?" Ethan's voice was tight. "Like my legs are on fire." "Can you hold it for 1 minute?" He closed his eyes, breathed. "I'll try." He lasted 45 seconds. When they lowered him back down, he was shaking and soaked in sweat. But there was something in his eyes, something Rachel hadn't seen in months, a flicker of something that might have been hope. Over the next few months, Ethan used the standing frame 3 times a week. Each time, he lasted a little longer. 1 minute, 2, 5. By June, he could stand for 10 minutes. And then one day in July, the therapist said, "I think we should try walking." Ethan stared at her. "What?" "Not real walking, assisted. We'll support most of your weight. But I think your legs are strong enough to try." Rachel's heart pounded. "Are you sure?" The therapist looked at Ethan. "I'm not sure, but I think it's worth trying. What do you think?" Ethan was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "Okay." They set it up carefully. Parallel bars, a harness to hold most of his weight, the therapist on one side, Rachel on the other. Ethan's hands gripped the bars, his legs shook. "Whenever you're ready," the therapist said. Ethan took a breath, and then he moved his right foot forward. It was barely a step, more of a shuffle. His leg dragged. His foot didn't lift, but it moved. He moved his left foot. Another shuffle. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "Ethan." He took a third step, and then his legs gave out. They caught him, lowered him back into his chair. Ethan was crying, but he was smiling. "I walked," he whispered. "Mom, I walked." Rachel knelt beside him. She was crying too. "You did. You really did." For the first time in years, Ethan laughed. A real laugh, full and bright and alive. And Rachel thought maybe, just maybe, this was worth it. Rachel filmed it. She didn't plan to. She didn't think about what she'd do with the video. She just pulled out her phone and pressed record because she needed to remember this moment. She needed proof that it had happened. Ethan, at 13 years old, taking 3 unassisted steps, his body still curved, his gait uneven, his face twisted with effort and pain. But he was walking. When she posted the video, she didn't expect anything. She'd stayed off social media for nearly 2 years, but something told her to share it. Maybe other parents needed to see it. Maybe she needed to see that the world could be kind. The video went viral in 3 days. 5 million views, then 10, then 20. The comments poured in. "This is beautiful. What an inspiration. That mother is a hero. Never give up." Rachel read them with tears in her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt seen, validated, like maybe all the pain had meant something. But then she kept scrolling. "This is cruel. Look at how much pain he's in. She's torturing him for her own ego. Quality of life matters more than quantity. Let him rest. Why do parents think disabled kids need to be fixed? If my child was suffering like that, I'd let them go peacefully." Rachel's hands shook. She closed the app, deleted it from her phone, but the damage was done, because Ethan had already seen it. She found him 2 days later sitting on the floor of his room, her laptop open in front of him. He was reading the comments. All of them. "Ethan," he didn't look up. His voice was flat. "They think you're torturing me." Rachel's stomach dropped. "Ethan, those people don't know us. Don't they?" He finally looked at her, his eyes were red. "They see the same thing I see, a kid in pain, a mom who won't stop pushing. That's not what's happening, isn't it?" His voice rose. "Every surgery, every therapy session, every time you tell me to try harder, push further, don't give up. Who's that for, Mom? Me or you?" Rachel felt like she'd been slapped. "How can you ask me that?" "Because I need to know. He was crying now. Angry tears. I need to know if you did all this because you actually thought it would help me, or because you couldn't accept having a broken kid. Rachel's voice broke. You are not broken. Yes, I am. He gestured at his body. Look at me. I'm 13 years old and I need help getting dressed. I can't shower by myself. I can't open a door. I can barely hold a pencil. I took 3 steps and the whole world acted like I climbed a mountain. 3 steps, Mom. 3. 3 more than the doctors said you'd ever take. And is that supposed to make it worth it? All the surgeries? All the pain? All the years you spent carrying me everywhere, fighting with everyone, sacrificing everything? His voice cracked. Was it worth it for 3 steps? Rachel knelt in front of him. She reached for his hands, but he pulled away. You want to know the truth? Her voice was shaking. I don't know. I don't know if it was worth it. I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't know if I should have listened to the doctors, to your grandmother, to everyone who said to let you be. Ethan stared at her. But I do know this. Rachel's voice steadied. Every single day I had a choice, and every single day I chose you. Not the you I wished you were, not some perfect version without pain. You, exactly as you are. Even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. Ethan's face crumpled. They said you should have let me die. Rachel's heart shattered. I know. Do you think they're right? She looked at her son, really looked at him, at the boy who'd survived 47 surgeries, who'd learned to read at 5, who'd taught himself to draw with hands that barely worked, who'd taken 3 steps when the world said he'd never take one. No, she said, they're not right. You're not suffering too much to live. You're living despite suffering, and that's not the same thing. Ethan wiped his eyes. But what if I don't want to live like this anymore? The question hung in the air like smoke. Rachel felt something cold settle in her chest. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm tired, Mom. I'm so tired. And I don't know if I want to keep fighting. Rachel's voice came out as a whisper. Ethan, I'm not saying I want to die. I'm just saying. I don't know if I want to keep doing this. The surgeries, the therapy, the trying. Rachel nodded slowly. Okay. Ethan blinked. Okay? Okay. No more surgeries unless you want them. No more therapy unless you ask for it. No more pushing. Really? Rachel's voice broke. Really? I'm done deciding for you. You're 13 years old. You get to choose. Ethan stared at her for a long moment, and then he said something that broke her. What if I choose wrong? Rachel pulled him into her arms. He didn't resist this time. He just collapsed against her. There's no wrong choice, she whispered. Whatever you choose, I'm with you. They sat like that for a long time. Mother and son, both exhausted, both scared, both still here. The months after that were different. Rachel stopped scheduling surgeries, stopped pushing Ethan to use the standing frame, stopped fighting with insurance companies and school districts. She just let him be. Ethan still did physical therapy, but only when he wanted to. Some weeks, twice a week. Some weeks, not at all. He started drawing again. Not a lot, but sometimes. He enrolled in an online school, made a few friends in a Discord server for kids with disabilities. They talked about video games, not about their bodies. He was happier, quieter, but happier. Rachel went back to work full-time. She hired a part-time aide to help with Ethan's care. It was expensive, but necessary. For the first time in 13 years, Rachel had time to breathe. She started seeing a therapist, someone who specialized in caregiver burnout. In one session, the therapist asked, "Do you regret it? All the years of fighting?" Rachel thought about it, really thought about it. "No," she said finally. "But I regret not asking Ethan what he wanted sooner." The therapist nodded. "You did what you thought was right. But what if I was wrong?" "Then you were wrong with love." Rachel cried in that session, cried harder than she had in years. Because love didn't fix anything. It didn't make the pain go away. It didn't make the choices easier. But it was still there. Stubborn, relentless, imperfect. On Ethan's 14th birthday, Rachel didn't bake a cake. She asked him what he wanted to do. He said, "Can we just watch a movie? Together?" So they did. They sat on the couch, Ethan in his adaptive seat, Rachel beside him, and watched some animated film about dragons. Halfway through, Ethan said, "Mom? Yeah? I'm glad I'm alive." Rachel's throat tightened. Yeah? Yeah. It's hard, and it hurts, and I don't know if it'll ever get easier, but I'm glad I'm here. Rachel took his hand. Me too. They finished the movie in silence, and when it ended, Ethan said, "I think I want to try the standing frame again next week." Rachel looked at him surprised. "You sure?" He nodded. "I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm doing it because I want to. There's a difference." "There is." Ethan smiled, a small, tired smile. "I'm not fixed, Mom. I'm never going to be fixed. I know. But I'm still here. And that counts for something, right?" Rachel's voice broke. "It counts for everything." 2 years later, a journalist reached out again, the same one from before. She asked if she could do a follow-up story. Rachel almost said no, but Ethan said yes. The journalist came to their new apartment, slightly bigger, slightly brighter. She asked Ethan questions. He answered honestly. "Do you wish your life was different?" "Sometimes. But whose life isn't hard?" "Do you ever resent your mother?" Ethan glanced at Rachel. "No. She did what she thought was right. And she stopped when I asked her to. That's more than a lot of kids get." "What do you want people to know?" Ethan thought about it. "That I'm not inspiration porn. I'm not a miracle. I'm just a kid with a disability trying to live. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be more than that." The article was published in November 2025. The headline read, "Still Here, Ethan's Story at 15. It didn't go viral this time. Just a few thousand shares, a few hundred comments. Most of them were kind. Rachel and Ethan never read them, because they didn't need the world to understand anymore. They just needed each other. And on the hard days, and there were still plenty of hard days, that was enough. Ethan still uses a wheelchair most of the time. He still has chronic pain. He still needs help with daily tasks. But he's in high school now. He's learning graphic design. He has friends. He laughs. He's alive. Not because Rachel saved him. Not because medicine fixed him. But because he chose to stay. And she chose to stay with him. And some days that's not a miracle. It's just love. Imperfect, exhausting, real. And it's enough.